Here. Greetings, Earth and Space Explorers. Welcome to Doc Waller's Earth and Space Report for Friday, April 26, 2024. I'm your host, Bill Waller, an astronomer, science educator, and communicator, coming to you on a clear and cool evening in my hometown of Rockport, Massachusetts. These Earth and Space reports are intended to engage and inform people like you who are curious about Earth as a planet, who care about our life-sustaining biosphere, and who wonder about the greater cosmos through space and time. Video recordings of these reports are archived on the Earth and Space Reports YouTube channel. They are also in regular rotation on Cape Ann's community access cable television channel hosted by 1623 Studios. I'm grateful for the continuing interest and support shown by Rockport educators and students, Cape Ann cultural colleagues, cohorts of the Gloucester Area Astronomy Club, sundry Earth and space scientists, educators and communicators around the world, far-flung friends, family, and other curious folk. Thank you for your active participation, comments, and general encouragements. For this episode, we will share personal experiences of the total solar eclipse that swept across North America on April 8th. Traveling at more than 1,000 miles per hour, the 115-mile wide shadow darkened parts of Mexico, the United States, and Canada over a 2-hour period. As viewed from within the path of totality, the sun's brilliant disk appeared completely blotted out. Surrounding this black maw, the diaphanous corona could be seen extending outward like a fiery mane. An estimated 32 million people are thought to have experienced some aspect of this awesome event. Among these many eyewitnesses, we are fortunate to have in this eclipse Sharathon Gerald Schieven, in abstentia, who viewed the eclipse from a cruise ship near Mazatlan, Mexico, Mario Motta, who caught it in Junction, Texas, and Zeiser, who filmed solar physicists at work on the ground and in the air above Texas and Maine, Bill Wall, who spied it through a break in the clouds above Niagara-on-the-Lake in Ontario, and maybe Julie Bolduc-Duval, who experienced totality amid the perfectly clear skies that graced Quebec. So let's get started. I will first share my screen and show an animated map of the sun's deep shadow, or umbra, passing over the continent. So I have to share my screen anyway. We have to have security to share the screen. Share the screen. And we begin with the annotated map. Okay. And so here we go. I'm going to change view so there's not as many people showing. Wait a second, what's going on here? Here we go. Okay. So this is a NASA animation, which starts with the umbra passing over Mazatlan, near where Gerald Schieven viewed the eclipse from aboard a cruise ship. Durango is where I wanted to go, but I did not. Torreon in the kind of the high desert of Mexico. And then we get into Texas, and it passes over Uvalde and Kerrville, which is where Mario started. And then there's Junction, which is where you actually saw it. And on through Dallas. A lot of people got to see it there. And Arkansas as well. I don't know anybody who saw it from Arkansas. And what's next here? Parts of Missouri and Kentucky and Illinois, Bloomington, where I have relatives who saw it, and Indiana, where my daughter saw it, Ohio, and then we get to where is it? Lake Ontario. I think that's near where Bill Wall saw it. And then we move on to Vermont, where I saw it, and Quebec, and then into Maine, and then out into the Maritimes. All this took about 2 hours. So that's pretty cool. All right. And so now we're going to move on to Gerald's presentation, which is not very long. Slideshow. Okay, from the beginning. All right, so Gerald and his spouse saw it from aboard the Discovery Princess. Gerald is a radio astronomer who gave a great talk on the ALMA Observatory several months back. And so for this, he actually gave me an email report on what he did. We booked the cruise almost 3 years in advance. It was sold out 2 years ahead when I was getting concerned that hotel bookings in Mazatlan would be sold out the minute they were available. We'd chosen that city because it had the best chance of having clear weather. We'd also never been on a cruise, so we thought we'd give that a try too. With more than 3,500 passengers, plus a crew of 1,500, I was afraid that the top deck of the ship would be crammed with people. Fortunately, the ship was oriented so that passengers on the starboard side could view from their balconies if they wished. So the top deck, where we were ensconced a good 2 hours before first contact, was not crowded at all. The first 2 days were cloudy, so we were getting very nervous. But the ship's captain found us a nice hole in the clouds right on the center line. I can't describe the emotional impact of seeing a hole in the sky like that. It's a truly spiritual experience, something everyone should do at least once in their life. I haven't started planning the next one yet, but give me a month. Back. And this is from the beginning. How about now, Bill?
I see a
Yeah.
ship.
Great, looks great now. I see the cruise ship.
Good.
Tiny little raft, isn't it? Wow. And so here's the route which I described from north of Baja, Cabo San Lucas, to Mazatlan, out to see where they observed the eclipse through a hole in the clouds, and then to 4, which is Manzanillo, and then to 5, which is Puerto Vallarta. And here's his eclipse photo using just a camera. And what I was trying to describe, where the corona is pretty much uniform all the way around. And then I was pointing out, I believe this eclipse, when you observe in the morning, this prominence right here appeared over here as viewed from Vermont about 2 hours later. Okay, so that's it for Bill Wall. Okay, end of slideshow.
That's it for Gerald Schieven, right?
Yep.
You said Bill Wall.
Okay, so I have to share the screen again, or allow somebody else to share the screen. So it would be
Having trouble finding which
okay,
the one
we'll
I
go to
put there for
Ann.
this. Yeah, I'll go after her.
Okay, great. So my presentation is a little bit about our PBS production, which is about solar eclipses. So because I am a documentary film producer, I'm going to start right out of the gate by showing you a little teaser that we just made weekend before last. So give me a second to get it put together here and share it, which will give you it's a teaser. So it doesn't tell you the whole story, but I'll tell you a little bit more of what we're up to after the teaser. So let me share screen. Give me a minute to get it all loaded up. And, oh, hang on. Of course I did something wrong. I wasn't really paying enough attention to making sure I had everything where I needed it. So now I'm good. Okay, everybody can see that? Okay.
A
Yes.
galaxy.
Yes, good. Okay, we are ready to go.
We live on a planet, an iridescent biosphere teeming with life. We are all a part of something much bigger than we could even possibly imagine.
The gold standard is the total solar eclipse. And you have this perfect alignment. The moon passes directly in front of the sun. You're in the right location.
With the total solar eclipse, we're able to just get exceptionally fine resolution of the magnetic field, how the sun is changing.
It'll be flying 2 different imagers for the University of Hawaii team.
What is causing the corona to be so hot? What is really providing the momentum for the solar wind?
The corona is actually quite a violent beast.
If the perfect storm were to occur, the power grid goes down, transformers start exploding. Satellites would be very screwed. We would lose GPS, no Google Maps, no cell service. We're rolling the dice.
I always love the historical aspect of science, what past cultures, what previous generations thought about this same celestial event.
Our people were watchers of the sky. Mayas, different tribes all over Mexico were looking at the sky to understand the process of life.
What's great about these celestial phenomenons is that they inspire curiosity.
You're all experiencing something that's surreal and cosmic.
3, 2, 1,
Everyone's moved me to tears. It is just such a beautiful sight.
We're able to do superhero things that are going to change the future of humanity.
So that is our teaser. And I am going to show you some slides from a deck that tells you a little bit about our production and where we were between April 1st and April 8th. So we were a few places, we were out for 2 weeks shooting. So I am now going to share screen again. And I have to do advanced screen share. And then let's see if that works. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yay. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to blow through some of these slides that we will not have time for. But as I said, this is a multi-platform project for PBS, and we have just started production. It's got a lot of moving parts to it. It's anchored by, right now, 1 hour documentary, but we have shot so much, I'm thinking it might be a 2-part, I'm not really sure. Some digital installments, a website, a limited podcast, educational lesson plans, and a social impact campaign. So we'll start briefly with the documentary. I'm going to skip this, but I'll tell you what some of the themes of the documentary are. We're looking at the cultural context. We're going through some basic eclipse science. These are in no order of importance. Emotion and wonder, the environmental impact of eclipses, which is really fascinating. Science experiments, which I'm going to focus on because that's what we were covering largely while we were in Texas, the societal impact and educational citizen science aspects, the opportunity for global connections, and Science Meets Art, which was part of the festival we were at. These are some of the people that we are interviewing, and Dr. Shadia Habal, who Bill kindly connected, or actually gave me an alert about, and I found her, and we are covering her science. We've got NASA, we've got astronauts from the Inspiration 4. We have some indigenous scientists, some anthropologists, some indigenous elders, science educators, eclipse psychologists, and historians. We're also doing a digital series, which will do a deeper dive on subjects that we don't have time for in the doc. The educational lesson plans, which we often do for PBS for this platform called PBS Learning Media, which is the largest purveyor of online content for the classroom. We'll be doing some science, some maths, and some social studies lesson plans. And because viewing eclipses are transformative and really spawn reflection, we want to extend this to an impact campaign to engage people around stewardship of the planet and stewardship of humanity. We feel like we are in a time where that is ever more important. So I'm going to just do a quick, the reason I'm doing this on is because of the scientists that we studied. We all know that Galileo was documenting sunspots in the 1600s. Up until the mid 1800s, scientists brought artists along with them to actually document a total solar eclipse in the corona. And the first image was in 1851. And what then sort of became the next iteration of documenting total solar eclipses was the spectroscope, which most of you probably know. It separates visible light into spectral lines, just like similar to a prism. And there's something really important that happened with spectrometers in about 10 years after, in 1869, scientists Young and Harkness saw an unknown green spectral line. And because they thought it was something new, they called it coronium because of the corona. And they obviously did this during a total solar eclipse. But what they found out 71 years later, two scientists, is that it was actually an ionized iron emission that had lost 13 of its 26 electrons. And the reason this is so important is the only way that iron, which is one of the many elements that's found in the corona, could be ionized would be if it were at temperatures between 1 million and 2 million degrees. So this began the quest to really understand one of the great questions about our sun, which is, why is it that the photosphere, which is essentially the surface of the sun, is between 5,000 and 6,000 degrees Kelvin, and yet aspects of the corona are 1 to 2 million degrees. So this is a still huge underanswered question that all heliophysicists are still trying to answer, and the scientists that we are following is pursuing this. So what's going on now in mapping the sun is really, during a total solar eclipse, is really a couple of things that are put together through imaging. The first is that the Solar Dynamics Observatory, which it's called the SDO, which is a NASA set of satellites, takes ultraviolet pictures of the sun and can give you a pretty good picture of the sun. Similarly, NASA has launched about 15 years ago something called LASCO, and it is a set of 3 coronagraph telescopes that record white light images of the corona, the outer parts of the corona. But you will see here, if I sort of created this composite, that we get the sun and we get the outer radii of the corona, but this red area is not mapped. And this is what the scientists are now focusing on, is getting this intersection and being able to create composites so that you can see the entire sun during a total solar eclipse. So Dr. Habal's research and other researchers are trying to put these composites together. And what they are using is a combination of visible white light and near infrared light, which is which goes out to the 3 radii of the solar surface. And they're putting these together. And so what they get, without going too deep into this, is they get these visuals of, here we see iron 14 up here in green, and in red we have iron 11. These are the ionized states. And so they can map them, and they can obviously give colors to them. And this is the work that the scientists that we are studying is doing. So they're using, spectrometers still. Those are still in play. And they're also using white light and near infrared light. So that just gives you a little background. And here's what we were doing. We started out by going to NASA Johnson Space Center, to the Wellington Airport, where NASA launches all of their planes for various scientific purposes. The military is also there doing things. And we filmed the test flight there. And while we were there, we also interviewed Dr. Shadia Habal, who is here on the left, and also a NASA scientist, Dr. Lika Guhatarkuta, who is the head of heliophysics science at NASA. She is a big deal in solar physics. And we also interviewed the engineers who were operating the instrumentation inside of the airplanes. And we're going to take a look at that instrumentation. It's pretty interesting. So Dr. Habal had one WB-57, which was originally a bomber plane created by the military that's been retrofitted by NASA and NOAA as a weather plane. And she had a spectrometer in the nose, and she had two imaging devices that were in the spearheads. I think they're called the spear pods under each wing. So here on the left, you see the nose of the plane, and here on the far right, you see one of the people on her team. This spectrometer, which actually moves and can move, and the operator in the plane will move it to take slits of the sun, was assembled in various places, then flown to Houston, and then put in the nose of the plane. And here on the bottom left are two gimbaled imagers that are here you can see in the center being put into one of the spear pods. And you can see these two gentlemen who are brothers from Germany were assembling them. The plane took off, did a test flight. It was successful. And here's just a little bit of GoPro footage in the upper right-hand corner from actual Eclipse Day. We weren't there on Eclipse Day, but everything was successful on her flight. She was also in 4 other ground locations. She was in Mexico, Texas, and Arkansas. And so she had 40 team members who were all at one hotel in Texas, all came together and assembled all the ground equipment in this hotel. And we interviewed 2 of her key people. The gentleman in the center is Dr. Ben Bowe. He is actually here in Boston at Wentworth Institute of Technology. He was heading up the Caryville, Texas team. And the gentleman in the bottom right-hand corner is someone named Miloslav Druckmuller. He's from the Czech Republic, and he does all the data imaging, what you saw some of those samples of. And here they are assembling spectrometers. Up here in the upper right-hand corner, they have what eventually was 8 sets of 8 imaging devices that were put into a device called the Guillotine that were used at all 3 locations from the ground. We also were at an Texas Eclipse Festival, which I was talking about a little bit. It had 40,000 people, and it had a lot of speakers and programming. And we wisely decided to interview everybody off-site where we were, which was it was a place called Canyons, the Eagle of the Canyons Resort, and it's owned by the state of Texas. And the resort, it's really cabins. It's not a resort. They lease the property from the state of Texas, and they were great hosts. And we interviewed some of these people that you see here, everything from NASA astronauts to artists, to YouTubers, and all sorts of other folks. We did do some things on site. The indigenous activities were on site at the festival. We were in 3 locations with the production on Eclipse Day, in 2 locations in Burnett, Texas. And here we are shooting. You can't really see, but on the left-hand corner, I'm pointing, and we were over a marsh abutting a lake, and there was some really crazy bird activity. The birds were going nuts. We also had a camera person put some audio devices in the marsh, and the crickets also were extremely noisy. So we did some documentation of the environmental effects. We were also in Jackman, Maine. We did not intend to be there, but the weather was not looking good when we were at NASA. So we hired another crew, and split up. And I stayed in Texas and my partner went to Maine because we wanted to make sure we got it. We had invested so much. And luckily the clouds parted in Burnett. So we actually had the total eclipse in both locations. This is just our still photographers little composite from Maine. And so this concludes. If you're interested in following our production, we're on Facebook here, we're on Instagram here, and we are back into fundraising so we can film the rest of it. So if you have any interest in being part of this educational project and supporting us, you can donate here through bit.ly Moonshadow Donate. And so that's pretty much our story. We are, this is not going to air for probably sometime in 2025. So we've just gone into production on April 1st. So we have a long way to go.
Thank you, Anne. What an ambitious project, worth doing. And we'll spread the word as best we can for
Thank you.
for funding support. So Mario, are you able to?
It's up now. Sorry, I've given 6 talks in the past 5 weeks, 20 newspaper interviews, and my desktop is a little cluttered. I got to clean it up. Anyways, yeah, let me share my screen. Okay. There we go. Can you see this?
Yep.
All right. So this was made up with the Springfield Stellafane crew. They wanted to use my photo from the last eclipse. This is from 2017. I said, sure. So I got a banner and we used that at the eclipse site. As you pointed out, we were supposed to be in Kerrville. We stayed in Bernie. Texans don't know how to talk. They spell it Bourne and they pronounce it Bernie. So it's down here below the map. But we had 2 buses, initially 70 people, 16 dropped out and went to Maine. They were smarter than me, but I had my entire family plus grandkids there. So I wasn't about to move for that reason. We were going to be in Kerrville at a great location, but the weather forecasts were not looking good that night before. So we ended up in Junction, which is about as far as you can go and still have a reasonable amount of eclipse time. Plus the weather prospects there were looking actually reasonably good. So this was my setup. It's a 90 millimeter refractor. And I was able to view, I actually built this little contraption here. It's a flip mirror. And I know online you can buy one for $550, but I hate to buy stuff, as you know. So I got the mirror part at Stellafane swap table for $10 and built all the attachments that go to the telescope, to the camera, and to the eyepiece. And by doing that, I could see it and then let the computer take the pictures at the right time through the camera. So it's a pretty good, neat setup. I'll take it with me to Spain for 2026. It fits in a overhead small suitcase. So there's a little bit of haze at the beginning, but it actually cleared up. And right about now, even though it was clear most of the day, some low clouds came in. We're looking through high clouds, cirrus, quite a while. The low clouds unfortunately blocked about about 4/5 of the totality, which is unfortunate. And the high clouds kept from seeing the real outer corona. But this is what I got. Inner corona and prominences came out fairly nicely through that. Now, this is a composite I made from subs from a friend of mine who's up in northern Vermont. I want to process it some more but he's still working out his frames. But at least this is what would have been seen in Texas. But this is most of these frames are from Vermont. And here's another friend of mine who is also in Vermont, just to show what's possible. That's a really neat image, fully processed. Again, not my photo. So here is my family and 5 of my grandkids. Here is the entire group that stayed. We had about 56 people here instead of the 70. And here are our grandkids looking at the eclipse. This is what the sky was like when we started. It was actually looking pretty good, but unfortunately it gradually clouded up. These are various participants in Junction. And we had a good time. Now this adds, it was supposed to give me another 4 minutes, 25 seconds if we were in Kerrville, but where we were, it only adds 3 minutes, 3 minutes and 8 seconds to my total. Now with the annular last October, I broke the 60-minute mark. When I saw my first eclipse in 1970, I vowed I'd break 60 minutes before I die. Hopefully that's not prophetic at this point. But I totaled up 61 minutes and 41 seconds as of October. Now I can add another 3 minutes, 8 seconds to that. So that was it. I'm looking forward to, I already made a decision. I'll be heading to Leon, Spain, August 8th, 2026. That has very good weather prospects. It's far enough from the coast. Let me start my share here. Far enough from the coast that you don't get that coastal haze. It's up on the high plain where the beginning of the high plain is. Has good roads to go further east if need be. But the further you go east, the lower the sun is on the horizon. This is a sunset eclipse. From Leon, though, it's 10 degrees above the horizon. And there's about 80% chance of seeing it. So I think that's the best spot looking ahead. So that's what I got.
Thanks, Mario. You did well. Yeah, there was a lot of spottiness as far as the weather was concerned.
Yeah, the low clouds covered, like I said, 4/5 of the time, which was very disappointing. But we did get holes, and I was able to get those photos. I basically set the camera on with a computer with Eclipse Orchestrator, had pre-programmed it, and it was just shooting continuously. So when a hole occurred, I got it.
Good, good. Well, Michael, do you want to show that video clip? You're going to have to unmute yourself.
By the way, Bill, I'm going to take an image of the mice galaxies tonight.
Oh, terrific. Yeah, it's a good night.
So anyway, we've got here is 8 minutes of Steve Kolaczkowski at the April GAC meeting, doing a rundown of some of the
part of my group.
Some of the images
he was there.
we've gotten in the email. And he tells rather a more heroic tale about your exploits, Mario, than you do. He thinks you're being modest. We'll see. We'll see what
he likes to embellish.
We'll see. All right, hang on. Let me do all the usual bookkeeping. Remember to share sound because he's narrating everything. Okay. So, okay, all right, let me just move some of this stuff out of the way. You get out of the way. There we go.
Okay, this is partial by club member Barry Omtov, whose house is over in Marblehead. So I'm pretty sure he shot this pretty much from the backyard. It gives you sort of a view, and also sort of points out that actually for this area, maximum coverage was close to actually the middle of the day. So here's where we started, and here's where we ended. But nice picture of all the crescents forming and closing. Okay, next. Eves here sent these. And was so we've got the progression up to the crescent and then finally totality. And if the little slide can move over, you can see one of the prominences. Two of the prominences over here, up here and up here. A little bit of the brushes and definitely the corona. So that's exciting. Nicely done. Nicely done. Okay. And so next, this is Phil Orbain's. Phil went up north into Vermont, I believe, and sent us one of his composites. Interesting thing, he's got Venus there, and we're going to get another shot of another. But so he has an early phase at 309, then a later phase at 322, and then finally his shot of totality, but also popping out Venus, which is one of the fun things about these solar eclipses is that you can see if the sky is dark enough, you can pick out a bunch of planets. Okay, next. For example, Lisa. This is Lisa Smith. She used her phone camera from Drummer, New Hampshire. If you can move that upper bar a little bit further up. Or some
Zoom is a jealous master.
Did she catch the comet?
Okay,
Is that
that's
the
fine.
comet?
So we've got totality here. Here's Venus. Here's Jupiter. And a lot of people got real excited when they saw this photograph. This is an airplane.
Fool me, because that is exactly where the comet was supposed to be.
Comet Pons 12P was right about here. So we were all hoping that we would get the opportunity if we could have a long enough exposure, because Pons 12 is only at about magnitude 4.5 to 5. So it's still, I mean, Elaine and I were out all last week, every night that we could, looking with binoculars to try and find the comet, and we couldn't find it. So we know that the comet was going to be hard to spot. But yeah, when I saw this photograph, my heart leaped for just a moment, and then I realized, no, that is in fact an airplane. But yeah, you've got Venus. Mercury would have been right about here, and but you do have Jupiter up there.
You could have pretended. Is that a planet to 7 o'clock from the sun? No, seven below. There.
I don't know. I think that's a cloud.
Okay.
I think that's artifact. That would have been another good candidate for the comet if it was in the right spot. Okay. Here we have an interesting one. This is 4 photographs of Dick Lukey's son, who is a pilot. That's Nathan Lukey, and Nathan Lukey's spouse, Alana Lukey. Okay. And she's not Hawaiian, but they met in Hawaii. Anyway, so Nathan and Alana, this is them. Anybody recognize that? That's Mount Washington. Okay, so here's the rim. And we've got totality out of the window from the airplane. So I like this different sunglasses there. Yeah, that's what I saw. Okay, another GAC member, Christine Caton McGill.
Oh, the streamers.
She used a Canon Rebel. This is just a little bit, I think, after. No, yeah.
No, that's the beginning, I'm pretty sure.
Is that the beginning?
Maybe.
No, I think that's
No,
after,
maybe-
because
no,
I think
it's
the
going-
moon is going this
It's
way.
going that way.
The moon's going that way, so this is just a little post. It's a little post, so we've got prominences, but a little bit difficulty with the focus and so forth. And then because we're moved into that situation, in order to get the prominences and so forth, you tend to lose the indication of the coma and the corona and all of the brushes and so forth and so on, but.
So is that a diamond ring?
That's sort of a diamond ring with a couple of spikes on there. Okay, next. And this is from our friend Mario Motta.
Oh, you've actually got the smoke.
So, okay, so it does, you can't see it because of the thing, but we were with Mario in Junction, Texas. We went to Texas because as you well know, the predicted best weather would be in Texas, and of course it went the exact opposite. So all of you lucky people up here, our hats are off to you.
Well, it was spotty.
But Mario, being the consummate gearhead and professional that he is, had his telescope on a tracking mount and his shutter speed set by a computer program. So he basically took a movie by continuously exposing, just changing his shutter speeds from time to time to time. And during a brief moment of because again, a lot of this stuff, that's clouds. That's not the corona. I mean, you're seeing the corona through the clouds. So that's the problem there. Elaine and I got to look up. Elaine got sort of one very fuzzy picture of totality with her point and shoot, and I didn't really get anything. So it was basically, we were almost completely clouded out. The really killer thing that everybody noted is because we had such heavy clouds, we had incredible darkness. I mean, we had pitch dark darkness. It was phenomenal, you know. And we were in a park in Junction, Texas, and not quite set up underneath, but close to some purple martin houses. And tweet, 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 tweet. Dead silence. And then as things lightened up again, they started coming out. But yeah, they completely quieted down because we had been hearing them the whole morning. But yeah, because Mario has the capacity, he was able to pull that one out. And congratulations to him. And has some great.
Oh, okay.
Not sure why that's still playing. Hang on a minute.
As someone once said, climate is what you expect, weather is what you get.
In many ways, one of the attributes of the eclipse is it is what it is. You know, wherever you were, no matter what the hype, no matter what the preparations are, the eclipse and the conditions that you have rule the day.
Mario, I was at Halibut Point with 2 telescopes and 300 people.
That's great. Everyone had a good time, I hope, right?
I stupidly volunteered us like 6 months ago, not thinking that every single person would be leaving town, but every single person left town, and there I was.
Yep. Well, Bill Wall, my almost namesake, would you like to regale us with your experience?
Yes, it'd be a pleasure. Let me see if I can get this right. I got to share my screen. I always have trouble with this. Let's see. Share screen. Got that. Share. So does that come through okay, or is there something being blocked?
It looks good.
Looks good. Okay, great. Let me see if I can get this. Okay, is everything clear?
Good.
Okay, great. Let's see, not entirely clear for me. Let me move this out of the way a bit. Okay. So, hello everyone. It is a great pleasure to be here, and I'm very happy to be a contributor to the Earth and Space Report. So I'm going to be talking about, and this is like 10 minutes, it's a very personal adventure that our family had in seeing the total eclipse of the sun. For me, it was wonderful because I'd never seen a total eclipse of the sun. But as you can see from this photo, the weather wasn't great, but we still managed to get photos, which I was very pleased with. This was in the Niagara region, and you've seen this map. I think this is from NASA. You're seeing this map too, right? So this is coming through. Okay, great. So you can see the path of totality across North America, mostly over the US and going through Canada here. So I'm going to zoom on this part because we're in the Niagara region, Niagara Peninsula here, just across the lake from Toronto. So I'm going to go into that box there. That was from NASA. This is from Astronomy Magazine because it has more contours, so you can see how the duration. We're far from mid-eclipse, so we only had like 3 minutes and 10 seconds, but that's still pretty good for totality. And this here is the Niagara Peninsula with Lake Ontario here and Lake Erie there. And this is St. Catharines, where we viewed the eclipse. St. Catharines is the city where I was born. I live in Vancouver, and I'm in Vancouver now, but we went to visit family. My wife and my daughter went with me. And I spent the latter part of my childhood in Niagara-on-the-Lake where my mother lives. So I'm going to go into this box here. And so we had two places that we could go. They were offered to view the eclipse. One is my friend John's place, the guy I knew from high school. I love him and his family. That would have been great. But my cousin Anne also offered. And keep in mind that there are some cousins that I had not been in touch with for like 30 to 50 years, depending on how it's counted. But that was a long time, and I managed to reestablish contact a few years ago. So we definitely wanted to go to Anne's place because it's great to be with family, especially kind of seen for a while. So this is great. So this is on the western side of St. Catharines, and either place would have given me like 3 minutes and 10 seconds of totality. So either place is great from that point of view. But we spent it with family. And another thing to keep in mind is that the weather, as I said, on the day of the eclipse was awful throughout most of the Niagara Peninsula. But we actually had breaks in the cloud at the right time, so we were lucky. So equipment used, nothing particularly fancy. I'm not an astrophotographer, so I just use my Nikon Coolpix, which is not really good for astrophotography, but it's great for wildlife, 83 times optical zoom. Got this Daystar filter. It worked really well. It gave me the shot of the sun, which you see behind me, and which you see in this slide here. But I'll show a better image of it shortly. So it did work. It charged like $19. Did it cost like 50 cents to manufacture? It was made of cardboard mostly and cellophane, but it did the job. It did the job. Used a tripod. Didn't have really a good mount on the tripod, so my photos aren't as sharp as I'd like them to be. My daughter Narissa. She had a Fuji X10 XT30 DSLR, so she had a much better camera. I bought this lens for her, so a long focus lens, so she could zoom in on the sun, and a special filter. This is a proper neutral density filter. Turns out we didn't need to use it on the day of the eclipse because of the clouds. So we went to Anne's place. This is eclipse day -1, the day before the eclipse, and so we wanted to check things out. And this is the 15-mile creek, which I like to call the 24-kilometer creek. And it's a beautiful place, especially in the summertime where everything's all green. I haven't been here in the summertime, but I know it's all green. Here you see a beaver lodge, other wildlife. You see the swan. Unfortunately, the camera focused on the wrong thing, but it's a really nice place to view an eclipse. And we tried to shoot the sun. This is the day before the eclipse, and weather was great. Unfortunately, the eclipse wasn't on that day. You can see a sunspot there, sunspot there. So okay, on eclipse day, like I said, weather wasn't great. So we were indoors and feeling somewhat depressed because the clouds were covering the sky. Then suddenly through the picture window, we got some sunlight coming through. So we looked outside and we saw the sun, or at least a partial sun, and we rushed outside with our equipment. Nerissa and I were taking pictures. This is my picture of the sun being gobbled up by the moon. And yeah, you can see clouds everywhere. So there's even in the breaks in the clouds, there was some cloud cover. So it wasn't as clear as I would have liked. But you can see the sun slowly vanishing. Now here, this particular photo I found particularly thrilling, because for me, I was thinking, oh, I can see much of the limb of the moon. I mean, you've seen this in photos before in magazines, of course, but for me, actually having this picture, that was quite thrilling for me. And here, and you see the diamond ring effect, you see solar prominences. And here you see, let's see, so this in the way, but up here, you can see what are called the Bailey's beads. Bailey's beads, it's because of the rough topography of the moon, that's some sunlight through in selected areas. I had to look that up on the internet. As the moon covers the sun during a solar eclipse, the rugged topography of the lunar limb allows beads of sunlight to shine through in some places, well, not in others. So that's good to know. Some days after this, though, one of our family members forgot. She forgot what they were Bailey's beads. She was trying to remember the name of it, right? She couldn't remember the name. She came up with bison's balls. Okay, very creative memory. And I figure, okay, bison's balls, I'll look that up too. Okay, so this is what I found. Carnivores, this is truecarnivores.com. You can buy bison testicles in bulk for $8.95 a pound, or as I like to say, $19.75 a kilo. And you know, that's pretty expensive, but you know, you can buy them in bulk, which is great. Great variety, you know, wide variety of beef items, so that's wonderful. And I did show, you know, very tasteful restraint in not including a picture of the severed organs.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, I mean, that aside was meant to be educational. Don't you all feel more educated now? I know I do. So anyway, back to where we were. So yeah, you see more prominences. And here you can see, and this is sort of blocked for me, but anyway, yeah, you can see the diamond ring again, but this time the moon is moving away from the sun. Yeah, this is more pronounced. There's all this misty material here. I mean, there's clouds. So, and you actually did see a bit of the corona there, just a bit. And the sun is coming back, but there's just too many clouds. So let's go to Nerissa's photos. She did a better job. She had better equipment. I think she's a better photographer overall anyway. So let's look at hers. Okay, hers photos are more artsy. She has, you know, this twig in the foreground, which looks good. And the clouds did add something to it. It's not great for science, but it is great for art in the sense that it gives a sort of surreal feel to the whole thing. This feels almost like you're looking at a horror movie, and this is a crescent moon, but it's really a crescent sun, which is kind of strange when you think about it, because the sun is self-luminous and doesn't have phases. But it does sort of look like that. Now you're starting to see more of the moon. There. You see the solar corona. He has a number of photos like that. Yeah. See more of the corona. The interesting thing, of course, is as we saw in some of the photos, I think Anne showed some, and maybe Mario too. There were corona goes out a long way. It actually goes out a number of solar radii, but you can't see low surface brightness emission in this kind of sky. But we're pleased to at least get this. One thing that a friend of mine told me was that you shouldn't be too wrapped up in taking photos. You should experience what's happening around you. So I did stop and I looked around, and it was like I said, surreal. Everything was dark. The creek was dark, and the animals had gone quiet except for one rooster, which was crowing frantically. And it's like, you know, there's a sort of a spiritual feeling almost when you're doing this ethereal experience, which always has some kind of comic relief in the form, in this case, in the form of a deranged rooster. But anyway, it was very interesting experience seeing the creek in the darkness like that. Another thing is that the temperature dropped noticeably. It was at 14 degrees at first, dropped to 7. And for those who speak Fahrenheit, it started at 58 and went down to 46. And this is in the space of less than half an hour. And then it warmed up again afterwards. It was quite the experience. You see, look, it looks like the corona is changing here. Of course, that's just the foreground shifting.
Mm-hmm.
And the sun is returning. Okay, afterwards, we had a celebratory dinner of lasagna, salad, and cheesecake. And we're thinking for the next one, for the next eclipse, we're going to have bison meatballs. You get baked bison meatballs. You can find this on the web. I'm not making up these web, but you can check on yourselves on the web. But this is real on the web. You can find these things. So. And of course, after the eclipse, what happens? The clouds clear away. And as the sun sets on Anne's and Wayne's house, or on Wayne's place, we thank you for joining us. So.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
I'm afraid the bison balls are now seared into my memories hoard.
Unfortunately for me too, yeah. For me too.
Well, we're right at 8:05, and I guess Julie Boldac Duval never made it from Quebec. She was tied up with her kids, tending her kids. So we'll miss out on that. And is there anybody else who wishes to share anything at this point?
That was a great presentation.
Yeah, it was pretty neat.
That was my 16th eclipse. 17 will be Spain, and then 2027 will be one that crosses southern Spain, Morocco, then crosses excellent places like Libya and Yemen.
Yum.
Which are major tourist spots, as you know.
Are you talking full eclipses or just partial eclipses?
This is the total. I only chase totals. But it does go over Luxor. I'm just not sure where I'll be. I may end up in Morocco. I'm not sure I want to go back to Egypt. My wife doesn't like the high pressure sales tax. You can't walk down the street there without people throwing dresses and clothes on you and then demanding money. But after that, there's really not a lot of eclipses. If you look ahead until 2045 is the next really good one. There are a couple of short ones. I may go to Australia in 2032, but there are not, there are basically in inaccessible places, very short eclipses, and basically bad Saros cycles. So if you want to see an eclipse in your lifetime and you didn't catch this one, I strongly suggest 2026 and 2027. After that, you got a long, long wait. The good news for 2045, I'll be 93. And it goes right over Florida. So I'm going to plan on being in a nursing home in the middle of Florida. So one of my grandkids can wheel me out in time.
Staring at the sun. You mentioned Saros cycles. Those are 18-year cycles of
yeah, and the
eclipses are separated by 18 years.
After 2027, the poor Saros cycles with not long eclipses.
The one that we just experienced, that was also the 1970 eclipse, which was my first attempt at viewing totality. I missed it. I ended up taking a ferry to Martha's Vineyard instead of to Nantucket. So got 99 and 44/100% pure totality. But that's no dice. You got to get in the path.
I was in Chatham.
And that's not enough.
No, it was about 4 seconds long.
Oh. Well,
but it whetted my appetite for all future eclipses.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just an 18-year-old teenager then. I didn't have the luxury of going across to the islands.
Yeah. Ditto. So I want to especially thank Anne and remind everybody to check out this recording and spread the word about her video project with PBS. I think that would go a long ways to reaching out to all the folks who experience some aspect of the eclipse. So I think I'm going to close these proceedings and thank you all. This was fun.
Okay, on to the mice.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, William.
Take
So
care.
long.
Excellent job.
It was fun.